Hi, I'm Celine and I'm a final year student here at the Education University of Hong Kong. I study English education. At the time of the application, I was thinking that I could do English. So the English Education University was one of my choices. My first choice at that time was Baptist University. My second was Education University. Then it was Institute of Education. My final choice was HKU. But then I think it's kind of like weird to put HKU at the second part, but then I was told that the likelihood to get into the Education University of Hong Kong was a lot higher. So I was like, okay, I was going more with a university in which that could really offer me a higher chance of getting into. My second choice was Education University only because I thought that it was a bit further than where I used to live at that time. But then I'm glad that I'm here, really. I would say that overall the application process was quite easy. The thing with Hong Kong is that it's really systematic, and that is also reflected during the application process. Everything was done online. All of the course like catalogs was also online. There was also a booklet that we could go ahead and check into. All of the universities are coordinated in terms of the open days, so we could go to all of them and check it out for ourselves. I thought that the application process was fairly easy. We had all the course information, and we just really needed to know whichever ones that we liked. In terms of choosing my program, I would say that I really chose it because it was purely in English. At that time, I really thought I was quite limited to courses that would really offer me courses in English because it's a given that I can't really converse in Cantonese, so let alone really doing a course in Chinese. So I was thinking, okay, I'd like to eliminate the difficulties and just go with being an English teacher. But then if I ask myself whether it was a good decision, I'm like, yeah, looking back into my 5 years, I had a great experience here. I also applied for the early childhood education course. The thing at that time, it was really in Chinese, but I was taking my chances. My DSE was good enough, so they gave me an interview slot. But when I had the interview, I was very shocked because it was completely in Chinese. That was a time where they gave us a sheet of paper. We had to read it. There was an issue, and it was a group interaction interview, and we had to introduce ourselves in Cantonese and also really have an interaction in Cantonese. I was really taken aback, but being the fighter that I am, I really tried first to speak in Cantonese. I was trying to understand what they were saying during the group interaction. I completely failed, but just really wanted to show my advisors that I'm gonna work hard for that. So that's one occasion. I actually got accepted for the ECE, but then I had to reject it because of the experience that I had during the interview. I don't think they were going to change the entire medium of instruction just because there was someone who can't speak Cantonese. And just by then, I really felt restricted to a lot of things in terms of the courses. As for my English education interview, of course, that was in English, and I felt like, okay, I could get a hang of this. Things need to be in English since we're going to be English teachers. So I was more relieved when I got to enter the English education program. Definitely. They're very, very happy. My dad works at the consulate, and he was so proud. He was kind of like boastful because he mentioned that he was the first one to have a child among the Filipino, say, kind of delegate community to get into a Hong Kong university. So for him, it was such like also an accomplishment. He was really proud of that. Likewise with my mom. At that time, we were really contemplating whether I could get in if I had the ability to get in, and if I don't get in, just go to the Philippines because for sure there will be a slot for me. But then I didn't want to because I was pretty much already settled here, and I know I could do it. It's just a matter of also getting to know the factors that can be on my advantage. So I did my part. I really need to study for the DSA, and overall they were very, very supportive. It was already a high pressure environment, but my parents did not add to that anymore. They were more supportive about just do your best. So I was like, okay, yeah, I did. And my sister was very, very, very supportive about that. My entire family, technically. Along with my program, there are a lot of my friends are also from my secondary school, but in my batch from secondary school, yeah, around, say I have like these 10 friends, all 10 of us got into university, and we're all like ethnic minorities. So for me, whenever there's an ethnic minority who's succeeding in Hong Kong, I'm just really proud as well, because it took a long way, I think. Yeah. I think overall, given the fact that we're in education university, the quality of the teaching is quite high. We have teachers, I would say, have high expectations of us, so we do have the tendency to push ourselves. I would say in terms of the teaching or learning support, in the beginning, when I was in my first year, I thought that support for the ethnic minority, especially those who don't speak much Cantonese, was kind of lacking. If we are considering, say, student union groups as part of learning support, then yes, I would go for 100% say there was really a lack of support at that time. As mentioned, I think I mentioned before, I had a culture shock when I was in my first year, because I went to English medium of instruction schools, and a lot of my classmates were like me, we didn't speak Cantonese. So when I got here, and the culture was different, because the majority, literally now I felt like an ethnic minority at that time. We were really a minority, and we felt like there weren't a lot of us that was enough to kind of make our voice heard at that time. So a lot of the things were in Cantonese, and I knew I was interested in the activities they were offering, let's say a particular society, but because the language was really a barrier, I just thought, okay, I'll just find my own ways to socialize without having to making myself feel too bad about the language being a barrier. Because I am taking an English education program, so I would say that 100% of my program was technically in English. So that was okay for me. It was a lot of the materials, they're all just in English. But I guess I could speak of one course that kind of was in the transition of the course language being Chinese to English. So at that time, it was kind of like a mix. And that was when I was struggling with some of the materials because they were in Chinese. I felt like I could not, how do I say, participate much because of the content. But regardless, I knew I needed to do something about it. So I did talk to the professor. The thing is, he was really nice and he was very understanding. The good thing with that course is I was also with another student who was like me. So we grouped together. We had to find our ways to be able to manage. But I would say that that is a minuscule experience. It's not to the point where I could really say that, I had a lot of courses, materials were in Chinese, and that impeded my learning with my learning. So I don't think that I can really say a lot about what's lacking in terms of the formal education part. Yeah, and I think that can be seen. I mean, if we were to make a comparison among the cohorts, there are a lot more non-Chinese in the English education program. And maybe that's quite telling because of the language barriers or language issues that's still apparent. At the moment, no, because as far as I know, the ECE course is still, the majority is in Cantonese. But I do understand because a lot of the kindergartens here in Hong Kong, I would say maybe more than 50% are still CMI, given that they're little kids, of course, so they're still honing, their Cantonese. So I would understand, but maybe offer a few more slots or have a few more courses that would be in English. I would say that a course like that was not available in the English education program curriculum, but I am minoring in early childhood education, and there was this one particular course where it was about learning or like teaching diverse family needs or something like that. And one of the topics was how to deal or like how to teach ethnic minority students. Um, I hope there were more, a lot more courses that were like that. Maybe not specifically to just ethnic minority, but like a whole bunch of other special needs. For example, like if you were a newly migrated family, what can a teacher do? If you were something like that, in the lines of that. I cannot emphasize enough how lucky I was to be in my placement school. I had such a great time. Before my teaching practice, I was quite anxious about how they would perceive me because in my previous job experiences, yes, I was labeled as a net by my employers, but it was a different case with the students and the teachers. It was and the parents, because their perceptions of a net teacher, they have like a stereotypical idea of what a net is. But when I was in my placement school, I had such a good time because I didn't feel any of that. I was anxious. I was quite wary that it could be the same experience as I had before, but I never felt that way. I was treated as an equal, and they completely understood that there could be teachers who don't speak Cantonese but is a local teacher, and they accommodated to that. I would say I'm just really, 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 really fortunate. I've heard horrible stories from my other final year peers, but I would say that I had a good experience. In terms of how the university partnered or arranged everything, it was quite organized, I would say, in the beginning, in terms of where students are allocated, the supervisors, they settled that way before the FE started. I think it got all muddled in the middle because there were so many issues to deal with. In my school there weren't so much, but with the others, yes. And I think the most difficult part in the arrangement would be on the students themselves, because they have to arrange the meetings with their supervisors who were going to be assessing them. But just recently, just last week, we had a debriefing about the FE, and we were all able to raise concerns about the FE in terms of the assessment, the support, the e-portfolio, and the workload. Those were the major issues that we covered last week during the debriefing. But overall, I think that the teaching experience really is a very important component of the English education or any education program, because that is what tells us pre-service teachers whether we should get into the field, because it's not an easy career. To be a teacher, I would say it requires a lot of grit, hard work, patience, really real patience, undying patience, I would say. Yeah. I was surprised to see minority students, given that I would say it's kind of a. The thing is, what we were told is that it's an EMI school, or I technically found out it was an EMI school because the situation when I was there, it really felt like a CMI school, like everything was conducted in Chinese. But then when I saw on their website that it's they're transitioning into an EMI, that was when I was quite surprised, because a lot of the students in their levels of English weren't, I would say, high enough if I were assessing as an English teacher. But the thing is, the school is working hard to kind of create that English-rich environment, and I appreciate that. And I felt that I have a place in that school to contribute because they're still transitioning. And I really appreciated the response of my students because, like as I mentioned before, I had quite a negative, kind of like a traumatizing experience from a student. But it's as if my race or my skin color did not matter to them. I really felt that because of my teaching experience, my English teacher identity was kind of solidified because of the experience. And I think that that's one of the most significant learnings I got from my teaching practice. I would say that a lot of the students here in the Education University of Hong Kong are friendly. So I think that's to my advantage as well because I'm a very talkative person. And I know that if I want to do well or at least do socially well, I also have to take the initiative. The language part is already an issue. So I'm usually the one who starts a conversation, especially if I want to make a friend. And I think that because of that personality and also the personality of majority of the students, it was not difficult to integrate, I think. But then it's a two-way street, I would say. I would say it's okay. I had a good experience because at the same time, the students also want to get to know the ethnic minorities here who were here on campus. I think that it only got better. I can't speak for myself in terms of the food part, but I have friends who are Muslims, and in the first year, second year, they were always complaining about the availability of food that they could eat there at the canteen. They would only go for, there was this dish that had fish in it, and they felt very restricted to that, if not something only with vegetables. Now, we're kind of, I would say, bittersweet about it because now they're really offering halal food. It's getting better. Everyone say it's getting better, but they're like, why is it only getting better on our final year? Why is it only getting better when we're leaving? But I guess we played a role in that because we kept voicing out our concerns previous years. What I appreciated is that the university is taking action because they know that it's inevitable that there are going to be more non-Chinese students coming in or international students coming in, and they would have to accommodate for, say, these kinds of special needs. I think that at the moment, the university is already kind of really trying to market the university as a place that the non-Chinese can thrive. And I think that's true. I think here, not to kind of endorse my program, but they get to have a good time. But at the same time, it's really up to them how they would think of the university life. If they think that the university isn't doing much, what if it's you who's not integrating properly? So I think I'm going back to it's a two-way street kind of thing. In terms of how the university can do better, I think it's already doing its part in terms of increasing the language policy to 80%. That's to an ethnic minority who can't really speak much of Cantonese. It's a big deal because then that would mean a lot of the courses are available in the language that we're comfortable in. And it would also mean that we'd be able to get more knowledge. There were a lot of Cantonese classes before that I'm very interested in just with the title, but I can't get in or I won't get in because of the language. But now I think it's getting better. There are a lot more courses conducted in English, and I think that that's a good thing for them. I may not benefit anymore, but I guess for future generations, then it's all right. I didn't know what to expect at all in the beginning because I didn't have people to look up to when I was in secondary school. I didn't know anyone who entered university. I felt like it was really our batch, or the 2012, the DSE, the beginning of the DSE batch, that were really able to, how to say, really get into higher education. So maybe one of the reasons why the university really is trying to improve itself is because of what we have been commenting in the past a few years, and I'm hoping that the improvements do continue. I think so because maybe I'm just getting back into my secondary education. A lot of us ethnic minorities, at least for my batch, I'm only speaking from experience, we knew that we can't really excel in terms of Cantonese. So I think in psychology terms, that's to compensate, which is work hard in what you're good at. And we really, really, really did. So we tried our best to really, we were already at a proficient level. We were really trying to get into much higher advanced level of our English. So the fact that we got through already with the application process, we're already at a good university, a good institution. I wanted to make the best out of it. So the fact that they're increasing the percentage, the language policy to English, that's a great thing for us. And really, that is to our advantage because then that would mean we could try out a lot more courses, see if we can enter courses in which would eventually become a minor or two even. And I would say that's a good thing. It was not an easy process to get or to complete my minor because in order to complete a minor, you're supposed to complete 5 courses out of 10. Of the 10 courses that were available to complete that minor, it was half and half. Half were in English, half were in Chinese. All of them, all of the titles were interesting, but I couldn't get into the Chinese part because it was in Chinese. I was already kind of being discouraged during my year 4 whether I could get into the final 2 that I needed to complete the minor, but I guess I only needed time. That is being a year 4 student, hence more senior, so they're giving a lot more of the slots. They're prioritizing the final year students or penultimate students at that time. So I really got in. But I felt like that was a hindrance. I keep asking myself, what if I don't get my minor? What if I don't yada yada yada. So I'm hoping maybe for the early childhood education it could increase because based on my experience, based on the people I know, a lot of them would like to become kindergarten teachers. And I think that I've read from SCMP that our ECE courses is the top or most in demand. I think they need to do something about that. I think a lot of the ethnic minorities would be interested in that as well. But if the language is an issue, then maybe that's one of the ways the non-Cantonese speaking students would avoid it. Definite yes. I already have about 2 already still in secondary school. One is about to take the DSE, one is in Form 5, and they're considering Education University. As a student of the university, of course, I'm like an immediate ambassador. So I go to my university, they give you support. Because you're an ethnic minority now, it's really getting better. So I think you'd have a good time. It's just to them, they are at an advantage because now they know how to speak Cantonese. So I think that would be a different issue for them. They could even have a much better time than I did. Yeah. I am excited. My teaching experience is such a wonderful experience, really, because That let me know that yes, I can, but now I want it.